You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, professional speaker, and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe who put pen to paper and turn that paper into a published book. Today is no different. Hey, cool, my kid. Today is different because we got one heck of a superstar guest for you. Thanks to the wonderful TS himself, all the way from the land of down under, Australia, Tyson Sharp. Because my goodness, this guest today, what a powerhouse. This lady right here. You got a lot of time management books out there, but usually they're geared towards probably the solopreneur, or most times, 9 times out of 10, the employee at work, or just someone doing stuff by their own. But we got a person who's an expert in time management, or should I say time empowerment for the entrepreneur, because her book is freaking fabulous. A fellow podcast host, best-selling author, and this woman has appeared on one of my favorite podcasts ever, the Read to Lead podcast. And she is totally a bundle of fun. And she is probably one of my favorite humans ever because I got the best podcast pitch ever. And she didn't even have to pitch, she was already in. So let's give it up for the fabulous lady who not only likes to win the hour, but likes to win the day, year, and the century. Let's give it up for Kris Ward.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Ah, yeah, with the big old X. That's right. Almost like a DMX.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
yeah.
Woo! Well, as with all introductions, are not allowed to be 535 days long. So mind filling in any cavities or missing fillings and tell us who is Kris Ward?
Okay, well, you did a very kind and generous introduction. So, yeah, I have a book called Win the Hour, Win the Day. And how that came to be was I'm a marketing strategist, and I was actually pulled away from my business for about 2 years when my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer. And when I returned to my work after his passing, after his death, my clients were not aware of my absence. They had no idea. They didn't know what was going on. When it became public that he had passed away, they were shocked. They knew nothing of this. And so they started to approach me very gently and say, look, like, how did you manage this? How did we not know? Because let's be honest, take all the emotion out of this, aside from my full-time work, my entrepreneurship, my company. There's a lot of demands when you go through a journey like that: chemo, appointments, and specialists. It's more than a full-time job. So it really, what saved me, what can help anyone, you can change your life by starting a team. So my book is under the category of time management and productivity, but a big aspect of that is team building. And we are just in a magical time in history where we have resources, when used correctly, that we never had before, that we could never afford, even say, 5-10 years ago. So I started working with these existing clients under the capacity of team building and productivity. And, again, what they really realized was the turning point, for them and for me, was when I realized you could simply change your life by starting your team. And what this means for you is really doubling your income and tripling your time off. And I started working with these clients, and many of them were getting back like something like 25 hours a week back the first month. And so I thought, I want to create a movement. I want people to know that your business should support your life, not consume it. And this whole idea of grinding it out and thinking, well, I'm working really hard, but everyone says online you should be working so hard, so maybe I need to work harder and go without even more sleep. That's just old school and misinformation. And you're beating yourself up trying to do it that way. It's just not working. So I thought, hey, let's write this book and see if I can help as many people as I can. And that has lent itself to other things. As you mentioned, we're about to launch our first ever product based on all my clients and my book, and it's called the Outsourcing Playbook for Busy Entrepreneurs: More Results, Less You. And so that all spawned from me helping people and understanding the fragility of life, and that, again, your business is here to support you, not consume you.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because A lot of stuff out there can consume our life. Like it's,
Yeah.
and business is definitely one of them in the early years if you let it just happen that way. And it's great that you're actually helping folks to try to see a little bit sooner than later. Is like, hey, you might want to get that team up and running and have some darn systems in place.
Yeah, and you say the early years, but I meet people a lot of times where they go like they're year 3, 4, 5, 6, and they go, okay, the year early years, you kind of go, oh, well, I have a reason. It's kind of like I often thought of it like aging, like I'm a teenager in business, so I'm just figuring it out. And you think, oh, okay, I'm figuring it out. And then you go, huh, it's year 4 and 5, and I'm really tired, and I'm thankful my business is alive, and I'm thankful it's growing, but things aren't slowing down. And at what cost is that to my family, to my life, to my health? And how much more can I ask for people to support me, and that my schedule is always the priority? And at that point you start to have ambitions and dreams where you go, you know what, I want to do this for my audience, I want to have a bigger impact, I want to, I have these other goals. And right now I'm just trapped in the trappings of the day-to-day work of my business. And as one client said to me, he said, Kris, I felt so busy and stuck at the same time. So, when you're sitting around with your family and you're constantly zoning out, or you're acting like a drug addict, in the closet hiding, trying to get one more email out, those type of things, it's not a way to live. So there is another way.
Sweet. And you mentioned a teenager in business. So when you were 13, did you imagine yourself being an entrepreneur helping folks get their time back and actually become more savvy entrepreneurs?
I did not, because I didn't understand it. But looking back now, I was a little bit of an entrepreneur. I was babysitting, but I took it like ridiculously seriously. I had packages, I had renewal things. I wouldn't eat when they left chips because I thought, no, no, I want it to not be a cost to them. Like I looked at it as like overhead on their expense. And I took it all. I had all these different scenarios for different bookings. How far ahead you booked, you got discounts. So I didn't understand that I had a real plan and a system in play that the other babysitters didn't. So it was in me, and I just didn't know what it was.
Sweet. Because I bet you're the fun babysitter too, on top of that.
Yes, I was. I do like children, so I was good, but there was no nonsense about, the bookings. That's for sure. I took that seriously. Yeah.
A lady about her business, even back then. That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Heck yes. Well, the beautiful thing is that you're able to actually get to the point where your youth continues for like ever, and you're helping folks to really realize, like, hey, you got to actually win the hour first before winning the day. And what I love about your fabulous book is that it's actually something really contrary I never thought of, is like the power of no to-do lists because of certain reasons. Any reasons why folks need to drop the to-do list instead and focus on the calendar?
Oh yeah, there's so many reasons, for sure. A to-do list is an amazing tool if you're looking to eat up your day and stress yourself out, for sure. No problem. That's what it's used for, right? So if you look at any successful person, that they're dealing with, you do not see them running around with to-do lists, right? You just don't. And so what I talk to people about is not only does it induce stress and it's never ending, and it doesn't have increments of time or order. So it's just, you don't know when you dive into the day, like, okay, I got these things on my to-do list, and you don't realize item number 2 takes 5 hours, item number 3 takes 20 minutes, and then you often cherry pick and try to shorten it down and leave the ones you don't like till the last. So what I tell people is, when you're talking about productivity, again, it's super important to understand that no matter how efficient you are, you cannot surpass the fact that you have one brain and two arms. And trying to run around and know just enough about a little bit of everything so that you can do it yourself is short-sighted, and creating you as your major obstacle. But once you understand that, you build a team, you do need to be able to manage your own time in order to not, to be a leader to them, or not to be a liability to the team you have around you, because then you'll lose amazing team members. And one of the things people don't realize is your calendar. They look at that as something that you put on there as like, oh, okay, I have an appointment. It's like outside appointments go on my calendar. Like, for example, it doesn't matter how much you don't like going to the dentist or how much it costs. That's on the calendar. You'll make that appointment. But your own work, you don't put on the calendar. And people will say to me like, oh, well, I do that every day, so I don't put it on the calendar. And I say, well, that's your time bank account. That's like saying, I have a car payment that comes out every month, but I know that, so I don't count it. Well, that money's still gone, right? So we must count it. And that's the same thing with your calendar. You might be stumbling into your workday thinking you've got 8 hours when in fact you might have 5. So right from the get-go, your math is off. And then when you got that pressure in yourself and you hire your first person and then you go, oh my gosh, this didn't work out. Well, you know what? It's them. It's kids these days. It's the economy. It's whatever. And you just were running around like a crazy person, and they just were not able to fit into effectively your chaos, right? So it is really important to understand that a to-do list is only a detriment, to your day.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Especially when you put like more than 6 items on it, it's like game over because you're not going to get all those done.
No, 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 no.
What I love about that as well is that you even underline one of my favorite lines in the book is that 1 hour, one project at a time, and actually focusing on that project.
Yeah. So what I talk about there is whenever you want to do something. So when I started my podcast, we decided, because I had this speaking gig coming up, that my team said, it'd be a great time to launch that is when you're at that speaking gig. I thought we'd launch it in the spring, but they said no. So I was like, oh, okay. And they said, well, we have the strategies, we have the book, so you can't argue against your own book. So I was like, all right. So whenever we're pressure on for something like that, what we do is we come in and say, okay, the first hour of the day, think of like your cell phone, your battery's fully charged, you don't have all these apps open. And the first hour of the day, I do what is either the most important work or the most creative work or requires the most focus. So then you just come in every morning for that first hour. And that way, I mean, oh my gosh, I did this for years, many years ago. And I'm sure most people this will resonate with. You're starting a new project, you got something really important. So you think, okay, I'll burn through my work and try to get this stuff done by whatever, 2, 3, 4, it keeps moving. And then you think, with your exhaustion and as a day picked apart your brain, you'll try to learn something new at night, which turns into 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. That doesn't work. So what I tell you is you come in first thing, get it done. And that way you've got building blocks. So the building blocks, all of a sudden we had our whole podcast launched in 4 weeks and we did really well. We had some phenomenal numbers in our ranking for our launch. And that's because we did it the first hour of the day for 4 weeks, and not saying, okay, I'll try to rush through my other work to get to this. So strategy is everything with your time, with your team. And that's what I'm so passionate about. It's not like I'm sitting here and saying, okay, this is going to be some color coded system and then there's going to be all these numbers and all this complicated heavy stuff that you see out there. These are really super easy strategies when you're team building or perfecting your day so that you can amplify your time. It's just kind of reorganizing your inventory, just gives you a lot of more resources. It just changes everything for you.
I love it. Reorganizing your inventory. Heck, that's actually so darn true. It's something we actually need to do often, even if it's with our own personal inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what? Maybe I've been going a little too hard lately. Let me make sure I actually enjoy my Sunday or my Saturday off or my weekend, as opposed to trying to jam in extra hours, even though that's a bad idea.
Well, for a lot of people, they're just trying to keep up, right? And what they're thinking is, oh, once I get past this next thing, once we get past the holidays, once we get past this new onboarding of this important customer, or once we get past the pandemic, or once we like, there's always a whatever. And you're like, then when you hear yourself say that for a while, I think a turning point for me in the early years was I heard myself say that too many times. And I thought, if the nature of business is to get more business, your business needs to be growing. If the nature of business is to continue to grow, then if you can't manage it today, in theory, you're going to get busier and frankly more tired. So nothing's going to improve moving forward. So you need to stop and say, okay, this isn't working for me today. I'm going at this pace. I'm not getting the ambitions out that I want. And I want to make more money. I want to have more impact. So what's going to be different? What's going to change? So what you have currently working, so many of my clients, they kind of lean in and whisper to me and they think that their dreams and are, well, like, Kris, my dreams are so big, the work is big. And I'm like, that's not the case. So they think, oh, people don't understand, I don't want to put all these big dreams out there I have, it just requires this much work. And that is not the case, especially for the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs. That's meant for people where you think your dreams are so big it requires a lot of work. Well, listen, your answer is here, because the problem with that is you're so isolated and you're just working so late and so many hours, and you just keep thinking you're the problem. Well, you're not. So you should stop kidding yourself. It's just the strategies are not in place to support you.
And that's something we all definitely need is support, whether we believe it or not. And heck, that's even interesting, kind of funny, kind of true about the whole big dreams, big work sort of thing. Because it's like, yeah, big
Yeah.
dreams, but it's like really small steps at a time are really going to get that big dream manifested.
Yeah. And you know what? There's so many things. For me, what I often tell people is, it's YME. You're missing execution. You've got smart ideas. You're a smart person. You're an entrepreneur. Your ideas are not insane. They're great, but you're YME. You're missing execution. And you can't do that. You can't get that execution by yourself while you're doing everything. You just can't.
You're missing execution. Is that going to be a t-shirt?
Could be.
That's right, the YME. That's right. Who needs YMCA right now? It's the
Right,
YME.
right. There you go. See, you got it down pat. We just need a jingle.
There we go, a jingle without the kringle.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Heck, that's actually wow. When I think about it, that actually can be a sign of possibly something bigger because if you keep not executing on things and making things happen, it's like no progress, no needle moves at all. And heck, even
Yeah.
if you have a team, then they won't be able to move at all either.
Well, no, 100%. But usually when I'm dealing with people who can't execute, it's because they don't have a team. So many people think once you reached a certain plateau, or once you get, oh, when I get this much money or get this journey on the mountain, once I get there, I will then be able to create a team. But the most successful people in the history of entrepreneurship, they all started with a team, two guys in a garage, whatever, but they weren't doing it themselves. So you're never going to get there. You're not going to get there by yourself. That's just the way it is.
So darn true. So darn true. Love it. Well, since you're all go, go, go all the time, what do you do to decompress? Because what I like about you is that you used to do Taekwondo like myself, and I found out that you're a fan of the Rocky movies.
I am. And I can't even remember. Oh, I must have. I'm just thinking, where did you get the taekwondo thing? Um, you must have got that out of me earlier. Yeah, I love a good bike ride on a good trail. That's my big treat. I'm in Canada, so the warmer months I do that for sure. So the decompressing, people talk to me all the time about my energy, and I was like, yeah, that's great, but decompressing is an issue. I have had to learn over the years how to have a very serious regiment when I go to bed, because I operate at this level all the time, and then you get all hopped up and you don't sleep. So I do have to have self-care that requires sort of decompressing and slowing down, because I do get excited and passionate about anything I do, or kind of just don't do it. So that means I'm all hyped up all the time. So yeah, I do love to play hard and have fun for sure.
So you're like this 23/7, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's like, yeah, I was gonna be one of those moments like, nope, nope, nope. It's like, it's got an on button, an off button. The off button is
That's it.
when I
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. The flame is on or off. That's it.
It's either really passionate one day, and it's like, oh, you know what? Nope, need sleep. I'm good. Yes, indeed. Because life does have those magical interruptions.
Hmm.
So, since this is far from your first ever podcast, is there a question you wish we asked more often?
You know what? I think it's the one I get asked the most often, and I think it's an important question, is people often think, well, Kris, can you do if you can't afford help? And I think, well, first of all, if you can't afford help, that means you really need help, because the revenue is not there because you don't have help. And it just reminds me of the first time I hired an outsourcer. And for me at that time, it was like 8 years ago, which was kind of cutting edge back then. This is, I was one of the few people doing it. It's a bit more of a mainstream conversation now, even though a lot of people are still doing it wrong. It's a mainstream conversation. But when I did it, it was because I was going out to meetings as a marketing strategist, and I was sitting in an office, I was making notes. And when you're dealing with marketing, there's always different packages and details, and there's a whole bunch, it's not a one size fits all. So I would come back to the office and I would promise God to hand that I would, hand to God, not God to hand to God, I would promise,
Okay. I was like, wait a
I
second.
would promise I would put them right in their notes. And what happened most times was it got left and it piled up, and I would get to it like Friday afternoon. And then I'm dealing with notes that were supposed to be like left there for 20 minutes. So when I came right back to the office, I would put them in. And so now I'm trying to make out my notes. And when the client would call back, I'd be a little bit panicky because I was trying to make out my notes. And if I got something wrong, it would look like I was trying to swindle them on price, when in fact I just had bad notes. And, every week I would promise myself it would be different. I would stress myself out. I beat myself up. And finally I hired an outsourcer, and I had a transcriptionist. So when I left the meeting, I would just sit in my car, talk for 30 seconds with clarity and confidence and detail, and she would put them right in my notes. And what happened was, not only did I get all of Friday afternoon back, and the customers would call, the clients would call, and I would be really confident in the details and everything would be there. It was, I presented really well. But she really liked doing this, and this was all she did. So she had like 10 clients, and all she did was transcriptions. I couldn't imagine doing that job, but she liked it. So it meant she was really fast. It meant she had technology to serve her in that area. And so the weeks I needed her, sometimes I needed her for like an hour. Other weeks I didn't need her at all. And the weeks I did need her, I was like paying like 12 bucks. So 12 bucks for me to get Friday afternoon back, the stress gone, my all my notes to be clear and concise. Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So many people make the assumption that it's too expensive or they can't afford it. Or worse, they go out and they say, okay, Kris, I heard you. I went out, I tried it. It didn't work. But that's what I'm telling you now. As an entrepreneur, you can't be putting your hands in everything thinking, well, I can learn enough to get by. It's kind of like saying, well, I got a driver's license. Why can't I learn enough to get by and be a pilot? Like, it's the same thing. It's a steering wheel, right? So what I tell you is, the misconception that there are strategies in place so that you have a hiring process, a training process, and it's not something that will take more time. Not at all. When done well, it will provide you almost instant relief. So it's not like, listen, the last thing I need is another thing to do, and I do not need to be training somebody. Well, I'm telling you, it would take seconds, if not minutes. We've done it across the board in all industries, and it gives you relief, not the burden of another task. So I think those are the questions I don't get asked enough, because people make the assumption that it's just going to be more work, and they just have it in their head like, oh no, I don't have time for that. She does not know how hard my job is, right? So that's the misnomer I think I wish more people understood.
Yep, yep. Because it's so darn true. It's like we always prejudge like people's work ethic or like their level of activity, and things like, you know what, they may be an expert, but they don't know what I have to go through. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, they definitely do. Because I mean, because going through your
Yeah.
book and listening to some of your past interviews is like you've been through a lot, and you're still able to perform at a high level, and probably even at a higher level now, I imagine, despite all of that.
Well, you've done your homework. I must say, I don't know if anybody has done their homework as much as you. I think you know everything about my weight. So I would tell you, and there'll be no guessing. Thank you very much. Um, I would tell you that it just, there's more. Like, look, I keep coming back to your dreams should not cost you, and your business should support your life, not consume it. But because you've got these ambitions and dreams, it should not be something that you have to, that it dominates everything, right? So it should allow you things in your life. So I mean, I think it's sad when you talk to somebody and they're like, why'd you start your business? And they're like, oh, I wanted to spend more time with my family. It's like, oh, how did that work out? Like, oh my gosh, right? So it's not about performing at a high level, but it's about allowing it to breathe and enjoying the process and the creation. Because you all started your business because you were good at something, and it's something that people wanted to pay you for. But then that gets to be a smaller and smaller piece of the puzzle, because you've got the pre and the post work and the admin work and the getting new work. And then that zone of genius starts to shrink. And not only does it, not bring in as much revenue when it's shrinking, but you're not as fulfilled. So it's really just allowing you to soar and thrive and grow so that you can have the impact on your audience that you were meant to have.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because it's so darn true. It's like when you don't focus in your zone of genius and then you're stuck doing all the background work. I can remember Evan Carmichael talking about that in his early YouTube days when he was doing everything. And then when he outsourced a lot of the production out, he realized, wait, this is even better and cleaner as a final
Yeah.
product. And it allowed him to focus more on what he wanted to do to believe in his own dreams and manifest them. So it's so darn true.
Yeah, 100%.
Ah, yes, indeed. Well, coming down to the magical question that everybody gets to receive, and it's not even wrapped in gold wrapping paper. And that is if you were to wake up tomorrow and it was 3 years ago, metaphorically speaking, and you were 25 again in the year of 2020, but no pandemic, and you had all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
You know what? I keep beating the drum of it really would be about the team because those first 2 years I was in business, I, according to people around me, I was not as charming as I would like to think I was because I was exhausted. I was always tired. I felt nauseous. I had headaches. I was just like wearing my body down. First time in my life, I wasn't exercising because I was so busy. I confused busy with activity. And I just made it so much harder. And I was just under the guise of being noble and working hard and building something and just trying to get it done. And had I got a team even sooner, it would have just allowed me to like, the book would have been out sooner. Everything would have been out sooner, and things would have got easier, quicker, and I would have enjoyed the process and the journey more. So, because those first 2 years, it was really, honestly, half the time is just trying not to throw up. You're so tired. I remember walking down a long hall in between meetings, and I remember closing one eye, thinking, "I'll nap this eye," because it was a really long walk. I'll nap this eye,
Ouch.
and then on the way back I'll rest the other eye. Like, that's insane, right? And a lot of people live like that. So I wish I had known that, because it was, when you see pictures of me from that time, it's like 12 years ago now, but I look older then than I do now. Like, I was beat up and self-care was just not a priority. You start eating as you're driving, and of course when you do that, it's not a salad, thank you very much, right? So it would definitely have been to start a team earlier.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Start that team earlier. That's right. That's right, indeed. If you want to get faster to manifesting your dreams, have a team. Yes, indeed.
Hmm.
Ah, yeah, that's right. And don't hope folks will talk faster than ever, because that won't help. That's right.
No, 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 no. It does not. People do not. And my husband used to say that, like, I'm speeding up, and they said, you expect everyone else to speed up, and then you get all twisted because you're going faster and faster and faster, and then you expect others to do that. And really, what I call myself now is I was in hysterical Kris mode, and I called myself a recovering rushaholic. So when I start rushing,
Nice.
then I expect other people to rush, and then they talk slow, and I think, listen, could you talk a little quicker? I'm in a rush. And I am here to tell you that has never gone over well. People do not want to hear that. So now I still am high energy, but I never put myself in a situation where I'm rushed, because it affects the energy. You are responsible for the energy you bring in the room. And that same thing, you don't create a team or a workspace, or you don't do well with your clients when you're clenching your jaw and trying to pretend you're patient. So if you don't have those internal obstacles, you don't need your patience. So just enjoy the journey, have a team, and life will be easier.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about right there. So, for those who want to get in magical contact with the Special K yourself, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Well, look for me on any of the socials, and you can reach out to me on Facebook, Kris, Kris Ward, Ward, and tell me you heard me on this magical podcast, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that stuff. Or, check out Coming Soon from Kris.com for the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs, because we are giving away the farm. I've told my team, I want to feel like we're bleeding. We're giving away so much because we really want to create a movement. So we're here to help. So I would at least check that out, because those on the waiting list are going to get super major bonuses. So yeah, Coming Soon from Kris.com.
Sweet. We heard that right, folks. She's metaphorically bleeding here of goodies and services. So make sure you grab them before the band aid and the cast appear, all right? Definitely got to grab them. Yes, indeed. Well, definitely enjoyed your presence, indeed. Definitely one of the favorites. Definitely the best video ever. Definitely made my day
Well,
that morning.
thank you so much. That's it's fun to make somebody's day for sure.
That's right. Not only win the hour, win the day, but winning hearts while she's doing it. That's what I'm talking about. So, any parting words to folks still listening, Kris?
No, just thank you for trusting me with your podcast and your valuable audience. And nothing more special than someone can give you than their time. So I appreciate you and thanks for your energy.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books. Be sure to check out the rest of the backlog too while you're at it and share all those too.